Hello everybody. Hope everyone's having fun. Hi Mom. It's my understanding that we're going to be doing the question game between me and Kelsey. So I will read the question and have a little bit of a break so Kelsey can answer and then I'll answer it. Question 1. What did we do on our first date? Well, I think our first date is a little different than most, as I flew to Birmingham to hang out with Kelsey for our first date, and I stayed there for a weekend. So for our first date, we did a lot, actually. So was there for 3.5, 4 days, and really was a good foundation for our relationship. So I asked her if I could go there in a letter I wrote early last year, and she agreed. So thankfully, she agreed. So that would be what I would consider our first date. Question 2. What was the groom's first impression of the bride? Well, my first impression of Kelsey was about 10 years ago at a trivia night as she was dressed up as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So I really don't really remember my first impression, but I guess it just would have been the normal high school girl dressed up for Halloween thing. She was Libby Browse's friend, so I knew she had to be somewhat of a good person. So other than that, I really don't remember too much of my first impression of Kelsey. One of those weird, I'm going to marry you in 10 years things didn't, pop in my head. So I don't exactly remember that one. But I just knew she was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I actually forgot that we met until after we met again at Camp Renewal, and she reminded me that we met then. But that's how my first impression went. Question 3. Where was your first kiss? Our first kiss was part of our first date. It was the first night when I flew to Birmingham, was outside her house in Birmingham, and I asked her to be my girlfriend, and she said yes, and we kissed after that. So that was our first kiss, right when I got to Birmingham the first time. Number 4. What is the groom's biggest pet peeve? I would say my biggest pet peeve, if it relates to Kelsey, is whenever she drives with her knees. So I don't exactly like that. I usually try to grab the steering wheel whenever she does that. So I think that would have to be my biggest pet peeve for what she does. Question 5. What is the bride's biggest pet peeve? I would say Kelsey's biggest pet peeve about me would be that I kind of tell her what's normally on my mind. I don't have too much of a filter, which for one, that's kind of been helpful because that's kind of how our friendship was always. We were always very open and honest with each other. But it gets to where now that I need to start kind of backing off some things that I tell her, be a little bit smarter about it. So not always tell her exactly what's going on in my mind. Not always the most attractive thing. So, but I'd say that's her biggest pet peeve about me. Question 6. How would the groom describe his home decor style? And how would the bride describe it? I personally would describe my home decor style as normal and simple. Kelsey would describe it as lame and bad. It's kind of the gist of it, what I get from how she thinks I decorate. Question 7. What is the groom's favorite physical feature of the bride? My favorite physical feature of Kelsey would be her smile. It was really the first thing that made me attracted to her in the first place. Whenever we went and danced at the Huba Hoedown and we danced, that was really, I really couldn't keep my eyes off her when we were dancing, and I was twirling her around, and she was smiling a lot. And also, about a month later, we were playing cards with her parents. We weren't exactly dating yet, and I was Kelsey's teammate, and it was hard for me to concentrate the first couple games, which is surprising for me because I'm usually very strategic, because I kept glancing over at her and she was smiling a lot, and it was very distracting. And so definitely my favorite physical feature of Kelsey would be her smile. Question 8. Other than your honeymoon, what is the first trip you will take? Depending on, I guess, what kind of trip this question is meaning, I'm sure the first trip we take will be somewhere in Texas, maybe for a weekend in like October or September. But when it comes to a big trip, Kelsey's always wanted to go to Italy. And so we've talked about, if possible, we're going to try to go to Italy next April. So I think that will be our next big trip if Kelsey is able to make the trip. Question 9. Who has been in more car accidents? But who is the better driver? I have been in one accident, and I know Kelsey's parked vehicle has been in an accident. But other than that, I don't exactly know. I'm going to go on a limb and say Kelsey has been in more accidents. But I believe she will say she's the better driver. So most people who ride with me will say that they're a better driver than I am. So I think it's a better bet to think that she's a better driver. Question 10. What is the one thing the groom cares most about in terms of the wedding? In terms of the wedding, I think the thing I've cared most about would be the food. Pretty pumped. We're having fried chicken at my wedding. I'm sure the song playlist would come next, but Kelsey has already declined certain songs I want to play. So I'm gonna have to go with the food. That's probably the most fried chicken and mac and cheese. I'm pretty pumped about that. So that'd be the thing I've cared most about. Question 11. What is the one thing Kelsey can't live without? This one is really a tough one for me to answer, as one of the things I really like about Kelsey is that she's such a versatile person, and she really doesn't, give too much value into things she doesn't really need. And so really, as we've been dating and been engaged, I've kind of learned that Kelsey is very, obviously everyone knows she's very grounded, and I really can't think of too many things that she can't live without. So I really don't have a good answer for this question. I know that's kind of lame, I'm sorry. But no, really, she really doesn't put too much value in material things, and that's one thing I really admire about her. And so I really don't have a good answer for question 11 on that one. Question 12. What is Kelsey's favorite candy? I'll do a shorter break on this one since this is a fairly simple question for both of us, since both of our favorite candies is the same thing, and it's a Reese's Fast Break. Very good if you haven't ever had one. Question 13. If the bride could meet one famous person, who would it be? I think this is also a somewhat simple one, as me and Kelsey have both been, although her much stronger than I am, we've both been fairly strong Taylor Swift fans since she debuted about 10 years ago. So, although recently she hasn't been too much of a fan of her, I think it would still be, she probably wouldn't be able to turn down the opportunity to meet Taylor. So she would probably be the famous person Kelsey would want to meet. Question 14. What is the groom's favorite dish? I don't really think I've talked to Kelsey too much about this one, as it's something my father makes, and he doesn't do it very often. But there are times when my dad will buy like pork steaks about an inch thick and that are the size of your plate. This is not an exaggeration, and we'll slow cook them for 4 hours down at the barn, and those are pretty good. So I was thinking about this one. I think I have to make that as my favorite dish. So. This isn't on here, but Kelsey's favorite dish is mac and cheese. That's a definite, yeah. Question 15. When she is sour, which we all know Kelsey is never in a sour mood, what is her favorite comfort food? Now, I know I just talked about mac and cheese, which that's her favorite dish, but I would say Kelsey's favorite comfort food is ice cream. There's a caramel type of ice cream she really likes, but also anything peanut butter fudge, peanut butter chocolate ice cream would really take the cake for her. It usually completely changes the mood, so that would be her favorite comfort food. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the time there, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. And looking forward to Casey's wedding and 8 weeks from now. Thank you.